So, okay, we have done, I think, 2 shlokas in the last couple of sessions, and very quickly we can go over them because these are very important shlokas. The important thing to understand is each adhyaya is a yoga. We did a couple of shlokas last time, and very briefly, let's understand that each adhyaya is a yoga. So the first adhyaya is Arjun Vishad Yoga. And the beauty of our tradition is that even Vishad, disgust, dejection, even that becomes yoga. So that is the beauty. Even the negative is something beautiful, which we must realize. And even our rejection of the world, the falsehoods, when we see that, when he's able to see through that, that itself is a yoga. So that's the first yoga. And someday, for theoretical reasons, we can discuss it. Second yoga is the Sankhya yoga. And I've seen different interpretations of it, but essentially it is the yoga of the will, of the intelligent will. And Sankhya is, as we have talked in the past, Sankhya. So you enumerate various things. So when you enumerate different tattvas of existence, so we can go back to sage Kapila's time and see how he studied and tried to break down. So he broke down the universe as he saw it into different tattva. What does tattva mean? Tat is that. So he didn't give a name. Tattva, that. Tattva, thatness. That's what tattva is. So the way he broke down, looked at the indriya, the senses through which he's getting the different data of the world. Then the bhutas, the different elements of the world. So the 5 elements, bhumi, akash, agni, apas, and vayu. So 5 elements. And then 5 indriyas. 5 indriyas, one is the jnanendriya, the indriya that gives you sense, and the indriya that gives you ability to act. So karmendriya. And the different bhuta is elements, that which becomes bhuta. These elements like earth, air, fire, or rather wind, fire, space, and water create certain vibrations which our senses receive. So how do our senses receive? And that also was divided: sound, touch, smell, taste, and sight. Sight was the most important. But these are the 5, the bhutas present to us through these energies. 5 indriya, karmendriya, 5 jnanendriya, 5 bhuta, and 5 way the bhutas present to us. So these are the 20. And then the antahkarana. Antahkarana is aham, manas, and buddhi. So these are the 3 elements of the inner being, and that's how they studied. Aham is the sense of I, manas is thought, movements of thought, and buddhi is that which has dhi. Dhi is a higher level of thinking and a higher level of seeing. Inner seeing is dhi in some definitions. Sri Aurobindo says dhi is a higher level of thinking, from which comes later samadhi, dhiyo, dhairya, later even it is connected to dharma. So dhi, but buddhi is closest, the best tool to reach the purusha. So it is difficult for the mind to understand the purusha, but the closest element, the tattva to the purusha is pure consciousness. So Sankhya says there are 2 principles, purusha and prakriti. Purusha is pure consciousness, that which does not move, No action comes from the Purusha. Prakriti is the manifest principle. And Prakriti manifests in these tattvas. So, how do you reach? We are all Prakriti. Everything that we are doing is Prakriti. All that is manifesting, the speaking that's going on, the hearing, all the movements, everything that is manifest is Prakriti. Kriti is that which creates. Pra is more intense. Whenever you have pra in Sanskrit, that is an intensification. Prabhu, prabha, the light that is coming intensely. So Prakriti. Purusha is the element that is pure consciousness. So we all, I think, know this. I just wanted to put that aside. So what is Sankhya? Sankhya is analytics, studying each tattva, each element as it is, to look at the Sankhya, to count. That is what Sankhya is. Sankhya is an analytic, intellectual approach. It is an approach as it purifies it, as it matures, it becomes the buddhi. So the goal in Sankhya is to be in a state of buddhi, and because you're in a state of buddhi, you're closest to Atma, you're able to reflect on the Purusha, and you are filled with the light of the Purusha. The buddhi is filled with the light of the Purusha, Atma Prakasha. And that is the secret of Sankhya, traditional Sankhya. The problem with traditional Sankhya is it's dualistic. Purusha, Prakriti, two different principles. Actually, each of us has a separate Purusha. So Swamiji has a different Purusha, I have a different Purusha, Pankajji has a different Purusha. Each of us has a different Purusha. And what was the logic? That if this Purusha becomes liberated, the Prakriti settles down and dissolves itself, and this Purusha is liberated, nothing happens to Swamiji, Pankajji, Jiten, nothing happens. So obviously the Purushas are separate. So this was one layer of seeing. And you will see that is constantly a source of confusion in our spirituality, because a certain stage of spiritual development, someone describes it, and we say, oh, this is a complete philosophy in itself. It is a complete philosophy at that stage of awareness. Sri Krishna, of course, takes Sankhya to a different level, and that is what the second chapter is, Sankhya Yoga. But we must understand Sri Krishna's method. It's a brilliant method. His approach is that of an integrator who will connect things, who will see the hidden unity of even diverse principles, even opposing principles. So he talks about Sankhya, and he talks about yoga. Yoga is yuja, comes from yuja, which is to join. And yoga in that time, the way Sri Krishna is describing it, was a path of karma, was a part of integration. So here you have a part of division, Sankhya, breaking it down, and you have another path that is a path of connecting, joining together. One is a path of the jnana, of the intellect, of the buddhi, and the yoga is a path of karma and bringing things. It's a very dynamic path. Now, this yoga is not Patanjali's yoga. This predates that Patanjali's yoga. We don't know what kind of yoga was being practiced in Sri Krishna's time. We just take his word for it, the way he's described. There is no, historical authentication possible, because we don't know. It's prehistoric in a way. But so he describes it, and so we take it. So he takes Sankhya, totally divisive, break it down, dissection, and then the other opposite way is to add, bring together, join, connect. And he shows both as aspects of the truth and ways of reaching the same truth. So he builds up this beautiful, the only word I can use for it is symphony. He takes one note, he will build it up, he will expand it, and then he will leave it at that point. Then he'll take another note, he will build it, he will expand it, and he'll take another note, like an artist, like a beautiful musician playing. And then the second adhyaya, as your intelligence opens, revealing is happening. Then he'll take the first note again and he'll widen it. And he'll show the connection to the other note. So we will see that in the first chapter. In fact, Shloka 11th to the 30th is about Sankhya. And he's talking about that which is always free of this jagat. The moment you think about that, the spirit, the purusha, the self that is always free of this, you cannot have any problems with whatever happens. You cannot have any problems with dukkha or sukha, shita or ushna, as he talks about in one of the, and we will come to that. We don't even have a problem with leaving or coming, which means dying and living. We have no problems with it because that is always beyond life and death. So that is the note he takes and he builds it for the next 20 shlokas. So if we see how beautifully, and at the end, beautifully, all these will come together in a vast understanding. And it's not that they stay separate. He'll bring them together. He'll play with them. He'll widen our understanding. Then he'll leave that and he'll bring something else. He'll bring Veda later, the yajna of the Veda, or the yagya, if you like Hindi. He'll bring that and he'll talk about that. And it seems like he's rejecting it, but he's rejecting the karma kanda. And in the 4th chapter, he'll bring the yagya, the meaning of that, even in a deeper way. And all of them will connect. There's another element in the 2nd chapter that we should not forget. So there is Sankhya, there is yoga, and there is a third element, which is Swadharma. He brings that element. What is your dharma, Arjuna? Because he's very practical. He's a practical person. And Arjuna wants a practical answer. He wants to know if he needs to fight or needs to leave. Practical answer, no theory. Don't give me theory. Tell me what I need to do. So he goes to his dharma. What is your dharma? And dharma is a concept, as you're aware, is multi-layered. It's multi-dimensional. So it will, in each adhyaya, he will come to a deeper understanding of dharma until he takes us to the highest understanding of dharma, where you drop all dharma. And there is only one dharma, that is Sri Krishna himself. That is the dharma. Sarva dharman parityajya. Forget all dharma. He starts with only the simple dharma of Arjuna as a fighter. And he kind of shames him a little bit. That you will have a kirti. This is not worthy of you. He kind of shames him. He's a very smart, brilliant thinker. So his logic is multi-sided. If you see, you can't. If you had Sri Krishna around, and of course he's around, to argue, you'll see he'll take multiple approaches, so you finally just give up. So dharma is a practical element, but he will take that practical element. He did not just give an answer and say, okay, here it is. If Arjuna says, what should I do? He could have just said, fight, and we're done. Let's move on. He gives him first the basis of why he's giving him the direction. And Arjuna says, what are you doing? I'm asking for a practical answer and you're giving me all these details and you're confusing me. Brahmit kar rahe ho. Then again he goes back and he waits for Arjuna to answer that. Then he prepares the ground. And the 2nd chapter is a preparation of the ground on which he will build his mega structure, the metaphysics, in just 700 shlokas. That's the genius. 700 shlokas, he's given us a complete integral philosophy, integral vision. It is more than a philosophy. It is a vision. It is a living truth of a Mahayogi's journey, and he's taking the disciple with him. Chapter by chapter, it is an unveiling. So let's just talk about the 11th shloka. We've talked about it. So there are some people who like the sound of it. So we will do that. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashochanan Vashochastvam Prajnavadanshcha Bhashase Gatasuna Gatasunshcha Nanushocanti Pandita Natvevaham Jatu Nasam Natvam Neme Janadhipa Nachaiva Na Bhavishyama Sarve Vayamatah Param. So these are the 2 shlokas we did earlier. And what is he talking about? Connection, if we see the connection. First he says, there is nothing, those for whom you should not have sorrow, you're having sorrow. That is not very smart. And you talk like a brilliant man, you talk like a wise man. What is it he has taken him to? He's already changed the order completely. This battle, oh my God, oh Krishna, all these are dying. What am I going to do? He just takes it out. You're having sorrow for those for whom you have no reason to have sorrow. So suddenly he has taken him to a different order, a different domain of reality. And he persists with that. Gata soon, that who is leaving. Agata soon. Gata soon, gata soonscha. Nanushochanti panditaha. Pandita is pandita in plural in Sanskrit. Those who love Sanskrit, like me, who always love that sound. Panditaha. Many pandits. They will not grieve. Whether you come, whether you stay, they do not grieve. So he has taken him to a one level. He's talking about it. And the second, which completely takes him to another level, or establishes his thought process. Of course, it confuses him. Natvevaham jatu nasam. There was never a time that I was not. What are you talking about? There was never a time when I was not. There was never a time when you were not, nor all these kings. Jan adhipaha. Those who rule over jana. Jan adhipaham in plural. Natvam na ime janadhipa. There was never a time when we did not exist. So he's talking about the Purusha. The Purusha that is immortal, that will never die. He's taken him to that understanding. Na chaiva na bhavishyama. Na cha iva na bhavishyama. Not in the future will we end. Even in the future we will continue. Sarve vayam. Vayam is us. Vayamataf param. And those who love Sanskrit intonation will see when visarg comes before a pa, it becomes a fa. So sarve vayamataf param. All of us will be. There will never be a time when we will not be. Again, he has kept him in the Purusha. And he continues with that same order of perceiving and thinking. Dehinosmin yatha dehe. So dehe is the body. Dehina is that which is in the body. Dehinos asmin. Asmin is this. Yatha dehe. Jis prakar. Yatha is in a manner. Kaumaram yauvanam jara. Kumar is young, early adolescent. Yauvan is youth. And jara is old. So just like this body that is adolescent, that is young, and that becomes old, the way that which resides in this body, dehina, which is the Purusha, that which resides in this body, the way it sees the body being adolescent, being young, and being old, tatha dehantara praptihi. In the same way, at the end, deh antar, deh ant, and the deh ends, praptihi, when it is reached the end, the body has reached the end. Dhira, those who are wise. Again, the dhi has come back. Your buddhi, dhi. Dhiras, dhiraha tatra. Dhiras tatra na muhyati. Those who are wise have no attachment. Moha, there is no attachment. So, you will see this continuation of that single note of Sankhya, where he has taken his intelligence, all his confused mind, to a state of almost a meditation. Now you are really studying and analyzing. And the moment you realize, there's no reason to be sorry, no reason to feel, to grieve, no reason to feel like you're going to destroy the nation, because nothing is ever destroyed. And he keeps him in that state. So the Guru has already taken his disciple to a state of meditation. And if we just meditate on this, nothing can ever bother us if we remember these couple of shlokas. Nothing can ever bother us. And he continues, Matra sparshastu konteya shitoshna sukha dukha da. Matra here is a unit, matra. And this is the matra that is the matra of Vishaya that touches us. So Indri, something touches us, that is considered as the matra. Matra sparsh, touch. Matra sparshastu Konteya. Konteya is the son of Kunti. Sheet Ushna, Sheetoshna. So heat or cold. Sukh, Dukh, Da. Whether you get heat or cold or joy or sorrow, this is all the touch on your senses. So whatever is given to you, Agama Payino Nityaha. Agama and Apayino. So coming and going, our breath, and those who know breath is counted in two ways. Agama, that is coming, Apayino, that which is leaving. Anityaha, they are anitya. They're not steady. They're not going to be sustained forever. Tam titikshasva Bharata. So Bharata, when he calls Bharata, he's addressing Arjuna. Tam, those you have titiksha. What is the meaning of titiksha? So there are three levels of being detached, of equanimity. And Sri Aurobindo has beautifully described it in records of yoga. Three levels are titiksha, udasinata, and samatha. Titiksha is a passive state. No matter what comes to me, I know reaction. Heat comes, cold comes, I'm passive. Let it go through. Like nowadays they do vipassana, just everything goes through. Senses come, senses go, no problem. That is titiksha. The next stage is udasinata. Udasinata, ut asin. You are seated above, ut asin. And this asit will keep coming back in all our yoga, as you know, that's very important, is where you are seated, where you exist. Ut asin. Udasin is you have gone above the world. Things are going on, but your consciousness is seated above. Nothing touches it. Ut asin. And the third stage is samatha. Now, samatha is not just passive. Samatha is also positive. So traditional or yogic understanding is when you reach samatha, you can influence others. Means people who sit next to you will become still. They will have samaha. In fact, it is said that when there was a hurricane coming to Pondicherry and Sri Aurobindo was seated in his room, windows were open, nothing fluttered in his room. Winds were blowing, raging outside his windows. Mother came running, oh my gosh, Sri Aurobindo, you got to make sure all his papers are fine. She comes and nothing is moving. Nothing moves. And he didn't even worry about it. And she described it that he just looked at her, smiled, and went back to his work. So that is samatha, the positive power, the force of a master whose awareness has established and has reached a point where there's no movement. That is infectious, contagious. But we'll come to that later. When we talk about changing the world that we are part of, samatha is a foundation of the Gita. Two very important requirements to do the yoga of Gita is to develop, to grow in samatha. Stop reacting. Stop worrying about the senses. And the second element that will come is surrender. Not sannyas, but surrender. Giving back to Sri Krishna. So he will come to that. So this is the note that he has taken. He will continue with this. If we remember this, understanding Sri Krishna becomes easy, because often people take one shloka and everything becomes all of Gita is then compressed and explained in one shloka. But the Gita is a very comprehensive work. So it will talk about different things, but it will weave them into a whole. And each of us can realize that whole. Each of us can live it, experience it directly. And that's the genius of the Gita. I'll briefly talk about essays on the Gita by Sri Aurobindo. First chapter, we just touched it last time, and I hope those who are close to Sri Aurobindo will read it, because that is a great, one of the singular instances of a Mahayogi commenting on the brilliant work of another Mahayogi. I don't know of any other work of this level. Although the mother has talked about the Buddha, but essays on the Gita, it's unique, absolutely unique. The guru of one age is commented upon by the guru of the next age, and the guru of the first age was the mentor of the guru of the next age. Sri Krishna was the guru of Sri Aurobindo. So it's really beautiful. A great identity comes, and the flow that comes. And so Sri Aurobindo, the first chapter is, what is our need and demand of the Gita? And again, his style is, he will look at every little concept, he will study it, and he'll never say, this is it. He'll let you figure it out. That is his characteristic style, very open-ended. He'll say, what should we expect from the Gita? What should we demand from it? And he says, first paragraph, he says very beautifully that nowadays we don't kill each other for what the others believe. Well, I'm hoping that the world will reach that ideal that he has set up. But in the postmodern age, we live in the postmodern age. Those who like philosophy and arts, we are in postmodernism. What does that mean? Postmodernism is, there is no one single philosophy that explains everything. We allow all kinds of different relative theories and concepts, and everyone is valid in its own place. And to some extent, that has truth in it. If you want to criticize it, you call it wokeism. And that comes a relativity to it, that everything is okay. And Shakespeare is as important as some feminists writing about her experiences. Obviously not. So we shouldn't take it to that extreme. But postmodernism is a realization that there is no one single philosophy that explains it all, and that each has its own relevance. And of course, postmodernism, being postmodernism, there's no clear-cut definition of postmodernism either. But in this age, we can see different truths are being presented. Each is allowed its expression to some extent, intellectually at least. And each has its particular role or place, at least theoretically. You will see that in art. When they do postmodernist art, they'll use the most classical structures, and then they'll put very modernistic things, and they'll put them together. And that's postmodernism. And all kinds of different those who like to read French philosophy, Jean Baudrillard, famous for the quote that came in The Matrix, that was, the desert of the real. We live in the desert of the real, where reality itself has lost touch. Is our media, mass media, our marketing, our advertising, our IT, our virtual worlds have taken us out of our touch with the reality. And so we have lost that touch. We live in an artificial world. Right now, we are communicating artificially. And Baudrillard would have called it the desert of the real. The real is gone. We are all virtual beings. Again, there's an aspect. So we are losing our consciousness. Here we are using it to grow in consciousness with each other. So that's a different way of looking at it. Obviously, Baudrillard did not know Sri Krishna and Sri Aurobindo, so he wouldn't have known about it. But that is postmodernism for you. So when Sri Aurobindo says all these different, we are no longer killing others just because they think differently from us, it brings me immediately to my mind what is the definition of postmodernism is different ideas have their own relevance and value. However, we still think, Sri Aurobindo says, that our ideas are better than the others. And then he talks about why the Gita is important. The Gita is an integral, a Purna Sahitya. Gita has, every Sahitya has, every Shastra has two elements, every scripture has two elements. One is the eternal, the other one is the local and temporal. And he says, whatever little in the Gita that is local and temporal, if we look at it, it has a symbolic meaning and it can take a bigger universal role, just like the concept of the yajna. So that is the next thing he talks about, and he insists that we go to the Gita for its actual living truths. He talks about what Sankhya and Yoga are, which we talked about. And one thing he said is the Gita is a great integration of which the Indian civilization is not only capable, it has done it multiple times. So the Veda is a great integration, Upanishads, the Gita, and then the fourth one, Tantra. So that's what it talks about. I think I've spoken for half an hour. If you want to take a break from my blabbering, then we can have some questions and play around.
Dada, I had a question. So I was just trying to see that how to make, I mean, in our own day-to-day life, how to relate the four shlokas which we have just look at, right?
Yes.
I mean, why see, one is to see it, how was it important to Arjun?
Yes.
So obviously he was worried about the people being killed and all that happening, and he was sad about that possibility, and that's where the first shloka is talking about. You are grieving the ones for which one should not grieve, and then he talks about that eternity of Purusha, like I will, there was no time when I was not there or you are not there. And then he takes him to this idea that of, I mean, from what I'm understanding is that attachment of body which we have, that we take it, the body, to be so real, and that foundational belief leads to a lot of, like, we worry about our own body, we worry about other people dying or getting old. And the next one, which is matra sparshatu, I think this
Matra
is
Sparshastu. Yes.
Matra sparsh astu. So this is about the reality of senses. That's another thing which we really get caught up in, that sensorial experiences which we chase. This will give me sukh, this will give me dukh, and I run away from heat and I get into like comfortable places. So I think I was just wondering if we should talk about, like, in a practical world, if one shifted the belief of what the body is really, right? I mean, that's, to me, it looks like that's one of the things, and what senses are, that would lead to a change in our could lead to a change in our understanding
Absolutely.
in our day-to-day life. So if you think we can unpack this a little bit
Yeah.
from
So,
practical perspective, the dehi and indriya part.
so the first thing is to realize what we are and what we are not. That's simple, basic. So we are not the body.
Yeah.
We are not the mind. We are not the prana. This is what he's saying. You're not that. You're not this. You're not this. Suddenly, you start focusing on that which you are. And he's saying that can never be destroyed. That will always be. So the body will grow old, body will die, you will change the bodies. But that will never die. So he is telling all of us, I mean, the way I see it is he's talking to each of us. Each of us is conceptually an Arjuna carrying out Sri Krishna's battle in the battlefield. Kurukshetra, they call it Kurukshetra. Kuru is where you do the work. Dharma kshetre, Kurukshetre. Remember the first two words of the Gita. So Sri Krishna is talking to us and reminding us to not focus on ourselves as the body or the mind or the vital. That's it, period. If we can just remember that, I think that itself is a beautiful step in our yoga. And if you can relate it, look at Maharshi Ramana, his entire yoga is to go back to who am I, right? So I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the prana. Then who am I? And going back, drilling back constantly on that. And if you go to Nisargadatta Maharaj, he just says, I am that. Forget everything else. I am that. Just remember this, because you are that, and just remember on this, and everything else will fall away. That's his meditation, and that's it. He took one shloka, you take one shloka, and that's it. That becomes your life. I think that is what we can learn from this. For when we get confused, when we get in our practical world, when things are going crazy, or everyone is going haywire, we are getting all upset, suddenly just take just that quick sense. I'm not this. Shitoshna Sukha Dukkha. So, since I'm not all of these, if I can just remember that, then that itself is my first big opening. He has given us the spiritual clue to realize. It is such a powerful realization, just to say to yourself, and really, if you can realize that even for a moment, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm not this prana. If that identification goes, that itself is a leap. So to me, that is how I have approached, understood Sri Krishna, and he will keep building it. If you go further, he will take this and go even further. Is yam himne vyatyantyete. Yam himna vyatyantyete. These will not disturb the Purusha. So he has come to the Purusha. Fifth one, I think Jitenji just asked. So yam himna vyatyantyete purusham purusharshabha. Purusharshabha is Arjuna himself. So he's addressing him. Purush Arshabha. Arshabha is the best man among humans. So that Purusha is different from Purushaha. So Pura comes from several Sanskrit roots. If we can understand this, that's a beautiful thing. Puraha is connected to Purataha. Purataha is the front. Even now in English we use the word portal, right? Comes same root. Purataha. Puraha is that which is in the front. Purusha is that which is in the front. In our Veda, first shloka, first sukta, first shloka, Rik, the word we use in the Veda is the Rik, first Rik. Agnimiyile Purohita. Who is Agni? Agni is the Purohita. Who is Purohit? Purohit is not some Brahmin Pandit, doing some chants for you. Purohita, who is in front of you? That Agni in front of you. So he's invoking the Purusha. He's invoking that consciousness. Agni is not some fire burning, wood burning. So remember, Purusha is that one who is always leading. The other way of understanding the Purusha, because in Sanskrit, Sanskrit has multiple meanings. One who resides in the Puri. Now, what in Krishna's name is a Puri? Puri is a city. The city with 9 doors. That which resides in the city of 9 doors. What are those 9 doors? Each of us has those 9 doors. The body has 9 doors. So that which resides in the Puri is the Purusha. So we are Purusha. We are that Purusha. If we can remember that, hold that just one thing, then that itself is a yoga in itself. And of course, Sri Krishna takes it further and further and further. Being Sri Krishna, he's not going to be letting you go with one little breakthrough. He will give you multiple breakthroughs, one after another after another. And that is the beautiful part of the Gita. I hope I answered your question somewhat, but if we can just remember that constantly, things go crazy. Okay, be quiet, still, remember who I am. Now I'm not worried. I'll take the world on because no one can touch me. No one can kill me. I sheath, Ushnata, Sukh, Dukh does not touch me. I'm on. So if that attitude comes, imagine the power you have. Nothing can touch you. Nothing can kill you. Who are you afraid of? People come and threaten us and all kinds of scary things and all weird things happen. Nothing can touch you. And you don't have to be arrogant about it, but a quiet light and just that realization, if it can settle, that itself is a yoga in itself. Sankhya yoga, second stage. So that is actually original Sankhya yoga was that. To stay in the buddhi, to analyze all these, to analyze, everything is being analyzed. Like we're talking, we're just analyzing. Now suddenly you say, oh, I'm not all these, because these are all moving. Prakriti is that which is anitya. I am nitya. Nityo nityanam. In the anitya, I am nitya. Everything is anitya. Anything we do, you have nothing you can give me that is nitya. But you are nitya. Nityo nityanam. The moment you realize that, then what happens? The whole polarity changes. So Sankhya Yoga is to stay in that buddhi, that avastha, that awareness, that constant memory that I am nitya, that I am unchanging. And if you read the Ashtavakra Gita, that's right off the bat, he takes him right there. Vishayan Vishyan Traja. Remember that? Drop the Vishaya like Visha. So Vishaya and Visha have the same root, and Vishad is the same root. So if we can remember we are the Purusha constantly, then that is the yoga Sri Krishna has started for us immediately. Now he also analyzes. He will analyze. He'll break the threads and tell you, why should you have titiksha? Later will come, I think, is the 61st shloka of the second chapter, 61st, 62nd, where he talks about what happens if you stay connected to the indriya. By staying connected, you have attachment, you have association. By association, you have kama, you have desire. By desire, you have anger, because when the desire is not fulfilled, you'll have anger. When anger happens, you'll get confused because your memory is gone. And when memory is gone, you're gone, finished. When you get all confused, then nothing is left. So he'll come back to this. Now remember this, titiksha, and when we come back to the end of second chapter, he will bring you back to. So he will not bring a note, finish it and stop it. He will come back in a higher, wider understanding and give you a logical or analytical understanding, because it's Sankhya. Sankhya analyzes. So if I do this, this will happen. If I do this, this will happen. Breaks it down. Yet you can cut through the chase. That's the beauty of Vedanta. Vedanta cuts through the chase. Boom. Go right where the money is. Right? Go to the Purusha. Forget all this. So if we can remember that, I think our yoga is going to be established nicely and confidently.
Good. So one of the key ideas is to remember that I am the inhabitant of the Puri.
Purusha, you are the Purusha.
I'm not the building itself. I'm the one who lives in it.
That's
and
right.
I'm not the doors and the windows, which are the senses through which things
Yes.
coming and going. And I'm not the processing, which is the mind, right? So
That's
I
right.
guess that's something which we can keep in mind and stay with it and investigate and,
And you have to practice it. You have to spend time on it. Keep redwelling on, come back to it. Whenever there's confusion, come back to it. So Jitenji asked another question. I just saw that. So that is a very good question, but I'll let you take them.
No, I think he has asked a few questions.
Yes.
Look at, first is why couldn't Krishna just change the thought of the Kauravas and avoid the war? Then his question is, so am I Purusha? And then why then to take any action at all? So maybe you can.
So I think second one we answered, right? Am I the Purusha? Yes, of course. That's the whole deal. Sri Krishna is, but Purusha in Sri Krishna's Gita is much higher than the Purusha of the traditional Sankhya, which is coming from Ishwar Krishna. Now, don't get confused. Ishwar Krishna is not Sri Krishna. Ishwar Krishna was a rishi who wrote about Sankhya. So whenever that comes, don't get confused. Kapila Muni is supposed to have written the first Bhashya on Sankhya, first Shastra on Sankhya, but it's not available. We don't have any copies of it because people have commented on it, but that Bhashya is that Shastra is gone. And then Ishwar Krishna wrote about it, and I think that some sections are available, and then the whole tradition of Sankhya started. Now, Sankhya is atheistic because there's no God in Sankhya, traditional Sankhya. Because Purusha Prakriti, simple. So, what is your goal in life? Find the Purusha and let this all drop in Sankhya. He had that realization, Purusha, pure consciousness, everything else drops, I'm done. Sri Krishna's Sankhya is a Vedantic Sankhya, and we will talk about it. Sri Krishna says, okay, you have different Purusha. He doesn't say it, but these are different Purushas. And this genius of Sri Krishna is he gives us 3 statuses of the Purusha. And we'll come to that. But since you asked me, I'll throw that in as a buy one, get one free. The Purusha's 3 statuses are what? Kshara, Akshara, and Uttama. Now, what is Kshara and what is Akshara? Akshara, you know. Akshara is that which cannot be divided. Akshara. Kshara is that which can be divided. Kshara Purusha is our Purusha that is involved in the Prakriti. Right now, we're talking, we're involved, we're moving. Right? We are listening. That is Kshara. That is Purusha deeply involved in the Prakriti. Now, that is not in traditional Sankhya. This is Sri Krishna. Because you can't say that my Purusha, this is all, has no consciousness. Because in the Kapila's Sankhya, this Prakriti has no consciousness. But is that really true? And then where do they connect? If Purusha is separate, Prakriti is separate, how do you connect? So Sri Krishna says, there is a Kshara Purusha. Kshara Purusha has forgotten itself. It is absorbed in the Prakriti. It sees itself as the Prakriti. That is the problem. You are Samir. That is your name. This is your form. You've identified yourself with Prakriti. That is Kshara in you. I'm Kshara, but I'm saying it. The second is Akshara, that which cannot be divided. That which is free, detached. Akshara, that is the Purusha that Sankhya talks about. You are free, you're not the body, you're not the mind, you're not the vital. But then it doesn't end there, does it? Because each of us has a different Purusha. Then there is the higher poise of the Purusha. When the Uttama Purusha, in Uttama Purusha, all the Purushas are one. There is no separate Purusha. One Purusha is here, one Purusha is here. Samir ji is here, Jiten ji is here, Jiddesh ji is. No. It's all one. Suddenly you say, what happened here? We are all one. We all have one Purusha. There is one Chetana. Chetanash Chetana Nam. Just like we said, Nityo Nityanam, Chetanash Chetana Nam. In this Chetanas, if I may use the word, consciousnesses or Purusha, it is one Chetana. This was the great Vedantic realization, right? So, Uttama Purusha. Now that, the moment you realize that, then what happens? Suddenly it's no longer a dualistic approach. Kapila's Sankhya is dualistic. Purusha, Prakriti, they will never be one. They're separate. So that's the second question we answered. We are the Purusha, but we are the Purusha that is not just this Purusha. We are Uttama Purusha. Eventually, that is what Krishna is telling us. So don't just hold on to this Sankhya. Go to Sri Krishna's Sankhya, Vedantic Sankhya. We are Uttama Purusha, one that is connected to all, one that is all. Sri Krishna doesn't stop here either. It takes it another step further. Because Arjuna's question is very valid. Why do I need to fight? Let me just go back to my Purusha, and all this is false. This is Indriya. So what is the point? Let me dwell in it. He has a point. So Sri Krishna then weaves this. This is Jnana Yoga. Sankhya is Jnana. Buddhi. You're going to know this is Jnana. But the original concept of Jnana is find the Jnana and then leave this world. Sri Krishna says no. Because you can never leave the world. That itself is a fallacy. You cannot drop karma. Can you? No matter what you say, you can never drop karma. In fact, he says something even more beautiful. He says, even I have not dropped karma. Even I do karma. So Jitenji's question, third question, I think was, then why do we need to do something, right? What was the question? I forgot. Why do I need to do anything or something like
Why
that, right?
then to take any action at all?
Right. But Sri Krishna doesn't stop here. Remember, this is just the first 4 shlokas. Don't hold on to this. We got to have much more unveiling. And later he will say, he will beat up Arjuna and say, this is your Swadharma, you have to fight. So Arjuna says, you're confusing me. On the one side, you're saying Sankhya, all this is, you're not all this. And then you're telling me to fight. This is exactly the confusion, isn't it? And then that is, once he asks that, then Sri Krishna gives an even bigger basis. Because he gives him a small basis. That doesn't work for Arjuna. Rightfully, he picks the question. This is a contradiction. You want me to do jnana? Want me to do karma? You're confusing me. He says, now let me give you the entire theory. You asked for it. So, understanding Sri Krishna, jnana and karma are not separate. There will never be a time when you are without karma. You may think you are. You can sit in the monastery, in the cave, and still be still, but still you're doing karma. You can't not be without karma. Karma is happening through you, and that is the beautiful understanding. Because it is not you who is doing the karma, it is Prakriti who is doing the karma. All this karma is Prakriti. The 3 gunas are doing the karma. First, understanding. Now, don't hold on to this idea either. He'll take it even further. He will take Prakriti also further. But the first idea is you don't do the karma. So first, stop arguing. You're not killing anyone. Prakriti is killing itself. No one is dying. You are Purusha, and he will talk about Prakriti is doing her own thing. So what is your problem? And then he will take even Prakriti to a higher level. But I won't confuse you right now. I'll stop. What was the first question of Jitenji? Why didn't he convince the Kauravas? Well, that is his Leela. I don't know why he didn't. But he tried, at least as far as we know in the Mahabharata. He goes to them. He said, even I'll take, for them, I'm speaking on their behalf. I'll take 5 villages. And he tries to give. See, the patra has to be ready. If the patra is not ready to receive, the way Paramatma has created this world is you have to be ready to receive. The wisdom is everywhere. The rain may be falling, but if your ghata is upside down, it will not receive it. And in the world of practicality, the Mrityulok, this is the way the rules are created. We have to be open to it. And that is why the whole process of yoga, we have to be open to it. We have to aspire for it. We have to purify ourselves for it. We have to consecrate ourselves. And that is why we do yoga. Otherwise, anybody and everybody will be a patra. But you have to be a patra. You have to go through this whole training, this preparation, and then slowly there is an unveiling. Kauravas also, remembered, represent the dark. They don't accept the reality of Narayana. The meaning of an asura is everything is for me. Me. Everything that is in this world is for me. So there's money made, it is for me. There is riches, power, it is all for me. What we are taught is share the wealth, give it to others. It's a very basic understanding in ethics, in even humanism, that if I appropriate everything, only 0.1% of the world's resources are with 100 capitalists, then what will happen to the world, with the universe? So the sharing, the giving back, circulating That is important. But the Asura doesn't believe. Asura wants to control. The ego, I am the truth. Everything is for me. But the Sura, the Deva, is everything is from Narayana and goes to Narayana. That is the difference, understanding. So Kauravas, especially Duryodhana, is representing the dark force. And he is not ready to listen to. And even knowing who Narayana is, he cannot accept Narayana as Narayana. So this is a quirk. Even Ravana, you see how brilliant he was. He was a genius. He was a Pandit of the highest order. He was a Tapasvi. Yet everything was for himself. And all his downfall came because everything was himself. So anyway, I hope that answered a little bit of your question.
One more question is from Rajesh. Is Purusha the same as Atman, called differently in different philosophies?
Yes, that is very well perceived. In Sankhya, the term used is Purusha. But in yoga, you will see more Atma. Sri Aurobindo uses both. And essentially, if Purusha is considered, if we go to the original Sankhya, Purusha is passive. Purusha does nothing, can do nothing. But of course, Sri Krishna gives it a different poise until he takes it to the Purushottama, the highest. Purushottama, Uttam Purush, which has all the Purushas in it. Same thing for Atma. Now, Atma has different poises also. Again, depends on which paradigm you're looking at through. But Atman also, that which is the self, Atma. If you go back to it quietly, what is the only thing you really know? What is it that you really know? All this knowledge has been put in your head. You don't really know it. You know it through your senses. What is it that you really know? And if you can follow that subtle, it takes you to a sense of being. That is the connection to Atma. Self, the being, and that Atman, our wise rishis said, is the same as Brahman. Right? Shankaracharya. And Atman also has different poises. And Sri Aurobindo describes it very beautifully as one Atman seated in your heart. He calls it the psychic being. Then the self, which is detached from the world, in which the whole world exists. And then the Brahman. Brahman is that which is indescribable because it's beyond all our limited ways of approaching. But Brahman is that which is avyakt and vyakt, in which all is contained and which is everything. That is Brahman. So you're right, Atma and Purusha are different paradigms, and they were used in that way, but essentially, we call Hridi Purush. Sri Krishna, Sri Aurobindo uses the word Hridi Purusha for psychic. He uses the word, the Purusha in the heart. Right? So the Purusha in the heart is the psychic. He is Antaratman Purusha, he says. So he uses different words. So we cannot, if we are not rigid, then we see the flexibility. And if we go back to the original use of the word and how it was brought to a unity. So then Atman becomes Paramatman. Just as Purusha becomes Purushottama, Atman becomes Paramatman. And that comes back again to Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna is the Paramatman, Sri Krishna is the Purushottam. So these are just different ways of describing different nuances of experiences. Maybe that is the way to explain it.
Maybe we can take one last question from Rajesh only. Is there a free will for us to do our karma, or all our karma is already determined by him? And somebody has added Please explain how to leave everything to Prakriti and give explanation and excuse of not being responsibility, taking action to the next level. I don't know if I.
So we can talk about Sri Krishna's answer, or I think that would be a.
If
Since
some
we're
of these
doing,
questions seem like to you, they will get clarified in the future session. That's also fine. I mean,
yeah, it's a beautiful question. I mean, it's a
Ah.
deep question. All these questions are very profound. Um, According to Sri Krishna, all this will that you think you have, his first answer is you don't really have it. It's all Prakriti, right? And then he later says, all this will that you think Prakriti has is nothing. It's all my will, right? So then he takes him to another revelation. That is not even Prakriti. I rule Prakriti. Not only am I all Purusha, I'm all Prakriti. And this is his grand synthesis. And at that point, whose will is there? It's all Sri Krishna's will. Now, the only will that is there we are so psychologically, subconsciously, habitually so influenced by the world, by the society, by our parents, by our education system, that we develop habits of thought, habits of feeling. Then Freud's subconscious comes through, then Jung's unconscious comes through, and where is our will in it? We just reacting, responding. We really don't have our will until we realize the Purusha, until we realize the Atman. Until the Atman comes out, then whatever happens is the will of the Atman. So if you say, is it my will? My will is what? Your mind? Then you say it's all Prakriti. But if the Atman is manifesting, then it's the Atman's will, because the Atman is not separate from Paramatma. So I hope that answered the question.
Okay.
Yogender ji asked a question.
How to experience or steps to go to that level of understanding?
Yeah, so the whole Gita is taking us to that level. Layer by layer, he will unveil it to us. But he has already started the process. The moment you realize that you're not all this mind, body, vital, suddenly you're into a different plane. And if you can hold your dharana there, hold that, even for a second, it'll break through. Something breaks through. So it's a progressive unveiling, one by one. You open the door, you shut it. Open the door, shut it. Next time, open it for 5 seconds, then it shuts. Open it next time, 10 seconds, then it shuts. Until it becomes a habit. Until your brain, your mind, memory, muscle memory of your cells holds it, and it's there constantly. But that is, of course, a siddhi. But that right now, you read it and you know, boom, how to experience it. You're already beginning that. Pragyanam Brahman. The moment you have pragyana, the moment you read it, something flashes, intuition comes through, a revelation comes through. You're touching the Brahman right there. You're touched. That's a Mahavakya from our Vedanta. It took me a long time to understand that my understanding itself is Brahman. That day I was so happy. Something I understand. Where is it coming from? The understanding. Is it my genius, my brilliant mind? No. Brahman is revealing itself. Brahman has come. This is Brahman. There's no other Brahman somewhere sitting out there. Pragyanam Brahman. This is a Mahavakya, one of the best, earliest Mahavakyas, which I just held on to. The moment I understand that my seeing through is Brahman, that itself became my revelation. So Brahman means constantly, it's around, it's here. That moment all your confusion drops and you see, boom. Now you just have to establish it. Now is part of Siddhi. Now you know. All of us have pragyana. When you did mathematics, when you did economics, where did the understanding come from? When you suddenly understood a concept, boom, where did it come from? You think your brain figured it out? Or was the understanding always? When does understanding happen? Look at that for a moment. When you have a flash, you suddenly understood something. What is it? Some revelation happened. It doesn't matter what field, something happened. Where is that coming from? So our ancients called it Brahman. Of course, Pragyanam also has layers and layers and depth. But to understand this itself is a revolution of understanding. And so we need to, so how do you reach it? You can reach it right now. It's because it is always here. It has never left us. Constantly it is here. You can reach it through analysis, just analysis. Just analyzing things, you can reach it. Like Sankhya. You can reach it through just pure love for Sri Krishna. You can reach it through pure joy. I think we talked about it last time. We can reach it through pure karma, if you keep surrendering your karma to Sri Krishna. Multiple opportunities, multiple ways in every moment. It's here, right here. We just have to notice it. Because we are that.
I think if I may add, I don't know right or wrong, but sometimes what happens is that we are looking to, when we are asking for how can I reach it, we are looking to for an answer which I can first understand and believe in my mind, and only then we will start. And if we don't understand, then we don't start. I think that is a very big obstacle. If we can, if somebody is suggesting something, the Gita is suggesting something, it will be nice to not try to understand, but just try it out and see what it does to us. And that will probably open the answer. I think what blocks a lot of us is we are wanting to first get everything clear on paper. Okay, this will lead to this and hence, and then only we will start, and then we just keep waiting basically, because these are not, matters are different basically.
Yeah, you want the whole shebang. You want the whole buffet served right in front at this one time. It doesn't have, it is multiple meals. It is going to come. More will come. Chappan bhog, it'll come. It'll come. Just wait. Enjoy this.
Yeah.
Relish this, and next more will come. That's the joy of
Let's try
every
what is in front
shloka
of us.
every shloka is Brahman. I mean, coming from Narayana himself, right? So it is the rasa of that. So, all right, good.
Okay.
You can.
एक लाइन और
I don't-
बोलनी थी मेरे को, if you allow me.
Yes.
समीर की बात पे आई थिंक जो ऑब्स्टेकल है वो श्रद्धा की कमी की वजह से लगता है मुझे, जो मैं लोगों से बात करता हूँ, एक बार इस बात पे श्रद्धा रख के ब्लाइंडली फेथ ऑन व्हाट गीता इज सेइंग एट वंस एंड देन स्टार्ट एक्सपीरियंसिंग इट विदाउट अंडरस्टैंडिंग इट, तो ऑब्स्टेकल जल्दी हट जाता है.
Yes. यो यत श्रद्धा स एव सह. जैसी आपकी श्रद्धा होगी वैसे ही आप बन जाओगे. So you have to have that. You have the Shraddha. Shraddha is your being. Shraddha defines who you are because it's coming from your Atman. It is coming from your Purusha. It will, and Sri Krishna says this very clearly. So you're absolutely right. Totally.
Okay. Thanks, Dada. Thanks, everybody.
अरे मुझे दादा कब से बना दिया आपने?
मुझसे तो बड़े ही
दादा को तो एक ही दादा एक ही दादा है.
एक ही दादा के अलग अलग पॉइज हैं बेसिकली.
अच्छा, पॉइज दे दिया. By the way, if you akshara, if you're confused, just remember that story of the two pakshi, Dwa Suparna Sayuja. Remember in Upanishad, one pakshi is seated at the top of the tree and one is eating fruit. The one at the top is golden, still, beautiful, and the other one just eating and doing things, jumping from branch to branch. That is the Upanishadic description of the Purusha, the Kshara and the Akshara. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah.
All right.
It's actually beautifully found also the same one in Parthoji's book, Sanatana.
Yes.
As a
yes. Partha Dada has written his, if you take the section on the Gita, that is beautiful. It's just so much of these truths he has brought out.
Thank you, Dr. P.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.